Hello one and all, this is Soulful Lordy, James Bullock, once again with another video game first impressions. This time around, WWE 2K23 for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Of course, WWE 2K23 is the sequel to WWE 2K22, which was the game that righted the ship after the horrendous WWE 2K20 came out, full of glitches, full of bugs, and of course, full of developmental issues. 2K22 was a reset in a lot of ways, especially when it came to the gameplay, focusing on a more arcadey, almost easy to pick up approach, where striking and combos were really the root system of how to enjoy the game, mixing in, of course, grappling, high-flying maneuvers, and depending on the match type, weapons and other variables. And 2K23 doesn't rock the boat, it doesn't shake things up, it sticks to the formula that it established in the previous game. It just tries to make it a little bit better. A lot of the intricacies, including dragging opponents or pulling off submission or just escaping a pin, are just like they were in 2K22. But I will say that the hit detection, though still a little iffy, especially when it comes to an opponent getting up off the ground, is not as precise as it could be, especially coming off of 2022, but it's still better in a lot of ways. I haven't had a lot of glitches, though a few, big game-breaking bugs, hard crashes, anything like that. It's just been enjoyable to play the game that I enjoyed the last time, but just better. One of the main reasons for that is the introduction of war games. The match mode that we've all been waiting for years is finally here. It's, as you expect, a very fun rendition of the stereotypical cage match that has been seen in these games for multiple years. You can involve weapons, of course. The overcoming the odds nature of war games in general makes it for a very fun time, especially if you're playing with a friend. Of course, with John Cena being the cover star of this game, he is the focus of the 2K showcase this time around. And honestly, I don't think it's as strong as the Rey Mysterio version. It doesn't really change anything in terms of gameplay implementations. You have to complete all the objectives if you want to unlock all the unlockables associated with the mode. Of course, there is no checkpoint system, so if John Cena becomes an overpowered super beast out of nowhere and you happen to lose a match, all of your progress is lost. The big thing that I think the Rey Mysterio version was better last year than this year is the fact that in between, during the cutscenes where they would blend real life footage into the actual gameplay, Rey would give his thoughts about what was occurring during that time during the match. John Cena doesn't. He just does the introduction for the match and then that's it. You don't hear anything from him until the next match. And I think that added a bit of intimacy to the previous version that we do not have here. On the opposite end of the spectrum, My Rise has been expanded but also redone in a certain manner. And one of those big matters is the fact that it becomes a lot easier to figure out the pathways to certain stories that was a little bit more vague in the previous iteration. The main draw point of this version of My Rise is these two narratives, the Lock and the Legacy, with the Legacy focusing on a female WWE superstar and the Lock focusing on a male. And one of the biggest things that I did not expect until I cranked up the mode is the fact that you can actually import one of your created wrestlers into that mode. So if you've created a wrestler and created a superstar already, then you can utilize that wrestler. They won't have the same stats, but they will have the same moves and entrances and victory poses and all of that you've already done if you created that star and imported them into My Rise. It's something that we've been asking for so long, and I'm so happy that it's finally implemented in this version. One big difference also about My Rise compared to the previous versions is the fact that they've actually added some objectives to each match, similar to what you see in the showcase. Now, these objectives don't bleed into real life footage or anything like that because, of course, that's impossible. But it does add a little bit of a challenge because at times the AI may not cooperate with you when you're trying to complete a particular objective. I haven't seen if you can win matches without completing any objectives if you have a penalty or the game will tell you that you have to redo the match. But right now, it's not as overbearing as it could be, so I'm thankful for that, but it's kind of an odd implementation to kind of, I guess, make things a little bit more dramatic depending on the match that you're playing. Universe mode has also been upgraded, as is My GM. They've taken cues and thankfully advice from the fans and what we've wanted. They've added those things. It's not perfect. For example, in my GM, you can't have multi-person title matches, such as a triple threat title match for the WWE Universal title, which is unfortunate. I wish you could, but that might be something that they patch in later on, very similar to what they did last year when they fixed a lot of the problems with GM mode the last time. My faction also returns. It's very similar to what it was last year, just expanded a little bit with live events and actually a quick play option so you can play with people online. Unfortunately, from what I've seen thus far, it's pretty bare bones. I know, of course, when it comes to the quick play, they will change it up as the weeks progress, very similar to the weekly towers. But it doesn't feel as fleshed out and really as enjoyable in terms of the online competitive nature that I think a lot of fans wanted from my faction. And it's still rooted in a solo experience in a lot of ways. Thankfully for Trophy Hunters, it's not as gratuitous and arduous as the previous version. So hopefully we won't have a headache or a stress or even break a controller trying to complete some of these ridiculous lifetime challenges that are associated with my faction. As I noted, I haven't had really any game-breaking bugs, a few glitches, graphical in nature here and there. Load times are a lot better than they were in 2K22, but unfortunately there's still those noticeable times of lag and loading when it comes to changing outfits or moving through different hairstyles when you try to create a wrestler that, considering if you're playing on a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X or a high-end PC, it really shouldn't be a problem, but it still is. Overall, I will say that, as I hoped, WWE 2K23 is just a better version of WWE 2K22 in more ways than one, outside of the showcase, which I feel was better in the previous version. But generally, this is a fantastic WWE game. It's everything I really wanted from the next installment in the 2K WWE games. I can't recommend this more if you've enjoyed the previous game. If you enjoyed WWE 2K22, you will thoroughly enjoy this one because it's everything that that game was, but mostly better. The only thing that is lacking in comparison to the previous version to me is the showcase mode, which really isn't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. So there you have it. This has been Soulful Lordy, James Bullock, once again with another video game first impressions. WWE 2K23 for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Now if you don't mind, I have to break out of this safe so I can prove to Sami Zayn that he is not worthy of being the Intercontinental Champion. Now that may sound like blasphemy right now, but this Sami Zayn is a terrible, terrible person, and I will have no choice but to make him say, "Oh Lordy."